loans give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
To curb corruption, one must be courageous to confront and rise up against the corrupt. Sleep well. Be guided by ethics and standards for peace of mind.
Refresh Sri Lanka for a civic-minded society. LMD, the voice of business.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we're zooming in on the importance of strengthening Sri Lanka's own products and creating local value-added products. And with us, we have the founder of Odell, Embark, Otara Foundation, and who we are, Otara Gunawardena. It's very nice to have you on the show, Otara.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
To start off our conversation, Sri Lanka is at a juncture where we really need to urgently get out of the crisis that we're in, and organic growth in terms of creating and strengthening our own products is essential. What is your take on this?
I'm someone who has been very passionate about Sri Lankan products and creating brands and uplifting the products that we make here, and also the ranges that we make here. And that was something I used to really focus on a lot and continue to focus on even after I left Adele. For me, it was very important that there's a strong balance between our own product and what we import. So obviously, when I first started, there was less imports, and there was a greater commitment to buy from here, and a need to buy from Sri Lanka and to develop things in Sri Lanka. But as the years continued, if I talk about what I did, was there was at least 60% of the product range from the ranges that I was selling was always from Sri Lanka. And obviously, that contributes to new brands being developed here, to businesses expanding, to people, lots of people getting jobs. Even now I can think of at least a dozen as a low quantity of people who started by doing things themselves, and they had 2 people, then 10 people, and eventually they had big factories of 40, 50, even 100 people, and also they created their own brands, which was mostly sold in my stores, but then also they created their own stores, own brands, expanded. So it really has a ripple effect, and I think for any country, it's really important that our local product is very strong, despite what we decide to import, as to always be fascinated by countries like Thailand and India, who eventually moved on to getting other brands and importing, but who made sure that their own production and their own products being sold in the country and being available was always very visible and very present in their marketplace. And usually people you can value them almost equally. It's not like one is, like the foreign ones are better than the local ones. So I think that's something that changed in Sri Lanka over the years. And it's not only to do with fashion and other product ranges, but also to do with our vegetables and our fruits, and even something like as simple as a huge range of bananas and mangoes. Most of them are very hard to find now, whereas what we have in variety is so special and so good. things that should be improved and strengthened, so that we also import less and focus more on our local production.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we are zooming in on the banking sector, and with us we have the acting CEO and the General Manager of People's Bank, Clive Fonseca. It's very nice to have you on the show, Clive.
Thank you for having me, Fazmina.
With the rising inflation rates and fluctuating interest rates, the need to have strong safety net is a must for banks. What are your thoughts on this?
My assessment is that safety nets are already in place. If I talk about the capital adequacy, the requirement was 10% in 2017, but now on an average, it has increased to about 13.5. If I'm to talk about LCR, the requirement was only 80% in 2017. But however, now the requirement is 100%. So if I'm to talk about the SLAR of the banking sector, it was about 31% in 2019, in spite of the turbulent times that we are witnessing. Even right now, it's about 30%. So generally, my assessment is that in spite of these adverse economic conditions, banks have performed well with regard to the liquidity and with regard to the capital adequacy.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we're zooming in on the green economy. And with us, we have UNDP country economist, Dr. Vagisha Gunasekara. Very nice to have you on the show, Doctor.
Hi, how are you? And thank you for inviting me.
To start off our discussion today, Sri Lanka has initiated an action plan to ensure a green economy in the country by 2050. We want to understand, what does the term green economy really mean and how does it apply to Sri Lanka?
Sure. I'll answer your first question first, which is what does green economy mean, right? Well, there is no internationally agreed definition of the green economy. And I think there are at least 8 separate definitions. There might be more that have been identified in recent publications. So one example is United Nations Environment Program. It has defined the green economy as one that results in improved human well-being and social equity while significantly reducing environmental risks and ecological scarcities. It is low carbon, resource efficient, and socially inclusive. That's what UNEP says. Basically, a green economy is a resilient economy that provides a better quality of life for everyone within ecological limits of the planet. So there is an element of economy, there is an element of ecology, and then there is society, which are also the three pillars of sustainable development. But this term, green economy, was first coined in a pioneering report in 1989 for the government of England by a group of leading environmental economists. This report was called Blueprint for a Green Economy. And since then, this concept has received significant international attention over the past decades, I would say, 2 decades. And it has become a tool to address the 2018 financial crisis, as well as one of 2 themes for the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, which was back in 2012. And this has resulted in a rapidly expanding literature, including publications on green economy from various influential international organizations, national governments, think tanks, experts, and others. So one of the major challenges faced by when you look at the crux of this green economy, one of them, we face this one question, which is the major challenge faced by the world today is the rise of global warming, which has a direct link with the activities of the people. Since it's estimated that the world population will be increased by another 2 billion by the year 2050, it has become absolutely necessary to control a further rise of world warming due to activities of this increased population. Therefore, it's incumbent on the present generation to employ appropriate measures to utilize limited natural resources of the world for a sustainable production process and consumption for the benefit of future generations. So that's the whole idea in a nutshell. Then I'll answer your second question, which is, what does this mean for Sri Lanka? Well, I think for Sri Lanka, what makes sense is not just a green economy, a blue-green economy. In other words, the green part should include the blue as well. And I'll tell you why. Why blue? Geographically, Sri Lanka is strategically positioned as a neighbor to a very fast-growing India, right, globally, when you look at it. And it commands the most vital east-west global shipping lane route vantage point in the northern Indian Ocean. Our current maritime territory, which includes an exclusive economic zone, is 8 times larger than our landmass. And if you look beyond the continental shelf in the Bay of Bengal, it's spread across an approximate extent of about 2.2 million square kilometers, which is about 35 times bigger than the total land area on our island, right? So, and we also have this very attractive coastline, right? It's a very resourceful coastline as well. It's about 1,600 kilometers in length. And we have natural harbors, rich coastal resources. So with such a vast underdeveloped resource area, it's really necessary to identify comprehensive sustainable development strategies to manage these ocean resources without causing environmental pollution. Now, on the green side of things, Sri Lanka can certainly and has the potential to certainly become a hub of clean industries that offer green energy. We have the potential to have certified export products by taking advantage of our renewable energy resource capacity and by conforming to very strict waste and energy management practices. We can also strengthen the prevention and control of environmental risks and improve environmental public services.
It's time to take a short break, and when we return, we'll resume our conversation around the banking sector.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
You're mobile, and so are we.
Gets me going.
Grab the Lite 87 app at the Apple App Store or Google Play now.
87.8 and 87.6 island-wide. Lite 87.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we're zooming in on the banking sector and its solutions to contain Sri Lanka's economic crisis. And with us, we have the chairman of the Bank of Ceylon, President's Council, Ronald C. Perera. It's very nice to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
To start off our conversation, we're still in the middle of the crisis, and the banking sector is expected to play a very active role in the recovery process. What are your views on this expectation? Is it fair?
Yes, now the banking sector has been playing a key role in the economy in all sectors because the economy depends on the money supply and the banks are in the center of financial stability. Therefore, banks encounter significant challenges during a crisis, especially in an economic contraction situation. Now, we know for the past 2 or 3 years, we have been hit by COVID, then economic instability, where raging inflation, foreign exchange rates rising to new heights, all that, plus, of course, we had people spilling onto the roads, all that created a lot of uncertainty and a lot of crisis was brought in here. Now, we think we have come out of the really dark area now. We find so many positive things we can say. Yes, the negatives are still there, but I think the banking sector still has a very, very active role in overcoming these challenges. because and also you must remember that Bank of Ceylon as a state bank, we have greater responsibility to support the government's decisions in reviving the economy. Both the corporate sector and the public expect the contribution of the banking sector during economic crisis. Hence, Bank of Ceylon has restructured existing credit facilities, rearranged working capital loans at concessionary rates for troubled businesses. Also, the bank has set up a separate revival unit to revive businesses which have really encountered hard times and were on the verge of having their what shall I say, their assets or their whatever they pledged to the bank being sold. So we have restructured that also. About 100 businesses have been revived and they are now in the performing side. So we have done all that. Plus, we have also provided a range of deposit products at competitively higher rates to encourage the public to save money even in these formal financial system during this bad time.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we are zooming in on insurance. And with us, we have the non-executive chairman of the board of Apico Insurance, Ramal Jasingha. It's very nice to have you on the show, Ramal.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm going to take you back to talk a little bit about the basics before we dive into the conversation. When it comes to Sri Lanka, what do you think is Sri Lanka's definition of life insurance? I mean, if you take the general average person out there, what does life insurance mean?
Well, for a long time, there was a lack of education. So there are a few sections of the educated public that knew what really insurance was, where it really serves basically as a risk transfer. Because life is full of risk, particularly in the case of life insurance, it will be your death, the risk of death, which is a certainty. And of course, sickness. But along the way, insurance products have evolved into bringing in an investment part of it. So as in the heyday or in the better days of our economy, insurance policy holders actually look for a return. So, insurance company would expect a bonus at the end of a term or when the insurance policy is about 2 to 3 years old, and you can expect benefits. And it becomes an investment product as against an endowment product, or you can get a whole insurance policy where you don't get anything until the point of maturity or death. So in that respect, for the longest time, life insurance was taken as an investment. Whereas my take in my experience or in my insurance career, there are other instruments that you can take for investment. I mean, today there are multiple investment opportunities for an individual to invest in. The unit trusts, then you get the banks, you get fixed deposits, you get non-banking financial companies. But insurance cannot, sure, there is an investment element in all life insurance policies, but that is not the primary reason for a life insurance policy, in my view. So it would be really to provide protection. And of late, there's been a slew of health insurance products, which I think is quite appropriate for a life insurance company. But both life and health are intertwined very closely. And the concept, I think the people's mindset is on how to get a health insurance policy through a life, where your life is protected and at the same time the risk of the medical requirements are met. So that I feel is the main thrust of what people think of life insurance. And thanks to the introduction of medical insurance into life, because for the longest time, medical insurance was done through the general insurance portfolio. But from, I think, 8 years back, the state of affairs changed. And now life insurance companies have come very aggressively onto the medical insurance field. And that has contributed to the growth in life insurance. And I think that is here to stay. So the concept of what people think is protection, which it really should be, and mainly these days, medical insurance.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we're zooming in on public-private partnerships. And with us, we have the chairman of Sri Lanka Telecom and Perera Farms, Mr. Riaz Mihula. It's very nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
To start off our conversation today, public-private partnerships or PPPs are considered to be a very efficient mechanism that enables us to mobilize the resources and the expertise of the private sector towards the country's development initiatives. In your view, and from what you have been observing, how successful have PPPs been in Sri Lanka?
A lot of people, I think, in Sri Lanka don't understand what real PPP is. PPP is all about sharing of risks. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, people think, or actually the people who the government sector think, oh, I give a piece of land and then the rest is up to the investor. And that fails because, you see, they think that our contribution is only just providing the land or the place or whatever, and the investor has to do everything else. And invariably, then the investor finds difficulty in getting the approvals, in environmental clearance, and all of the issues. So there is no sharing of risks. On the other hand, a successful PPP requires reasonable sharing of risks. There are some risks that the investor has to bear, which is the money he puts in and the completion of the project in time and management of the project to make sure that the revenues projected are realized. Those are the risks that the investor takes in. But on the other hand, the government also has to have, they don't just dump a piece of land, making sure that they facilitate the investment by getting the relevant approvals, clearing roadblocks, etc. And when PPs are largely used for infrastructure financing, and there is a lot of roadblocks, red tape, archaic regulations, which an investor often has to deal with. And if these are foreign investors, they are operating on foreign territory, and they find it extremely difficult. And that's why you find that these PPs fail. So for PP to succeed, there must be reasonable sharing of risks. And that's why you'll find that those which have succeeded well are where there has been a proper sharing of risks.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.